All right. I thought this would be a fun idea for maybe even a series I can do. I'm going to go through some mock drafts. In today's video, it's going to be about Mel Kiper's mock draft and just kind of give my thoughts on it. And I want to be very clear in what I'm trying to accomplish here. It's not to say, oh, look at this idiot who has this different opinion than me. Let's all laugh at them, because drafting is hard and creating mock drafts is difficult. And you better believe under every single mock draft, you see plenty of comments saying this is the worst mock draft ever, but it's difficult. And I think it's good to do this. And instead of saying, oh, look at how dumb they are, kind of saying, oh, that's interesting. That's how a different person views this, even if it's not something that I would do. And I'll probably make some jokes too, because I'm me and I'm kind of a dick sometimes. So anyways, let's just get into it. Let's go with Mel Kiper's mock draft. I haven't seen this at all. I saw it a little bit just when I was, pulling it up. So I've seen the first couple, but I haven't gone through this whatsoever. And the first one is the obvious one, I think, Aiden Hutchinson. It's what I would do as well. We don't have to spend forever on that. Number 2, though, Kyle Hamilton for the Lions it's very interesting. And again, there's going to be a few guys I'm not a huge fan of. To me, I don't even like, part of why I don't like the Hamilton thing is because of the scheme that the Lions played last year was heavy cover 2. And it makes me wonder, I think he'd be fine in that scheme. I think he could do it, but it's not really using his skill set to the best of their abilities. I feel like, the best way to use him would be as a sort of a box safety, which the Lions didn't do a lot last year. But granted, maybe they didn't do it a lot last year because they didn't have a Kyle Hamilton. So that's probably the logic I would assume, is they might change the scheme up a little bit. I have heard that rumor a decent amount. For the Texans, I got to figure out how to pronounce his name. Akim Ekwanyu, who I like a lot. This is, I think, a very good pick. You're getting a great player. It seems like he, checks all the boxes. Should be at least a very good player. Might be a guard, might be a tackle, but either way, it might make more sense to put him at guard and put Titus Howard out at tackle. That would really shore up the offensive line, which I like building the line through the draft. I think that makes sense. So no issues here. Number 4, the New York Jets getting Drake London, number 4 overall. This feels like a reach to me, even though I do like London. I think that it's a reach. I mean, there are some issues with London, specifically the speed issues that I would be a little bit concerned about. But the Jets need a receiver. And quite frankly, this fit would be awesome, right? I mean, Drake London is the exact kind of guy that could pair with Zach Wilson. If Wilson's going to improvise, run around, and throw something down the field, so why not get a guy who can make a tough catch, make these contested catches? Really good route runner, too. I think one of the better route runners in this draft. Number 5, the Giants going with Evan Neal here. Yeah, I like this. Giants need an offensive lineman. Again, this makes sense to me. I think the Giants fans would be very happy going after Evan Neal, kind of a physical freak who does have production as well. He's not my tackle number 1 necessarily, but I still do really like him. So no issues there. Number 6, going with the Carolina Panthers, Trayvon Walker. And listen, if you've been watching this channel, I'm just not a huge Trayvon Walker guy. I'm not. Some people really like him. I'm not one of those people. There's some real issues with Trayvon Walker's production. Did not have much of it in college, but he does have very good measurables. And so if you're kind of like in the Panthers spot, I'm assuming the logic behind this to some degree is, hey, we're not going to be good next year anyway, so who cares if it takes him a year to develop? I think it might take him more than a year, but if Walker is going to go in the top 6, this is probably one of the better spots for him, just because it is a pretty solid defense. You have other guys on the defensive line who can take on double teams, which could free Walker up a little bit. I don't hate the fit necessarily. Just, again, it's not what I would have done, but I get, if you're someone who does care about measurables and believes you can coach a player up, then I get the logic behind it. So let's go down a little bit. We'll go, just keep going to the next chunk here. Kayvon Thibodeau is it Thibodeau or Thibodeau? Anyways, got to get these pronunciations under control. I like Thibodeau a lot. I think he's good. I think this makes sense getting him at number 7. Big fan of it. I think that the Giants would be very happy with him falling here. Giants kind of, that's a good draft. Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeau. I think that, you're probably going to be pretty thrilled about that if you're a Giants fan. Getting 2 very good players. Number 8, the Atlanta Falcons here with Garrett Wilson. Again, Wilson's an interesting player. I'm probably a little bit lower on him than some others, but I still do like him. They need to get a wide receiver. They need a whole wide receiving core, really. So getting someone like him, there's real logic here. I don't hate this at all, but the Falcons are in a, quite frankly, it's not what I would have done necessarily, because I just feel like, the next few down the list, Charles Cross, Sauce Gardner, Derek Stingley, really any of those three, I'd probably rather have than Garrett Wilson, just in terms of like how good they are as a player. This feels like a drafting for fit move when I think the Falcons are further away from that, should be drafting sort of not necessarily best player available, but at least close to best player available. And this feels more like a trying to get a good fit here when I think the Falcons aren't really ready to be competitive just yet. So not what I would do. Charles Cross, number 9 with the Seattle Seahawks. Like this pick, they need an offensive lineman. If you're not going to go quarterback here, Charles Cross is a great player. Big fan of this pick. I think Seattle would be very happy. And then the Jets here with Sauce Gardner at number 10. It's kind of weird because I feel like, going back to number 4, Drake London, I feel like I would rather that value at 10, and Sauce Gardner, I'd rather that value at 4. So I guess it ends up working out. I like Sauce Gardner a lot. I think Sauce Gardner is very good. I think that, him and then Derek Stingley going one pick later, which I like that move as well with the Commanders. These are two teams that they don't like desperately need a corner. The Jets more so than the Commanders need a corner. So the Jets getting your two biggest positions of need, you're good. Commanders don't really desperately need anything. For a team that isn't spectacular, they don't have a ton of holes in their roster. So maybe, again, a bit of a best player available. I don't hate it. Number 12 here, Trent McDuffie going to the Vikings. Need a corner. This makes sense. Good scheme fit. And, this is where I see him getting mocked a lot. So I like that. Number 13, the Houston Texans getting Jordan Davis. If you heard my podcast, I do have some slight issues with Jordan Davis. I don't think he's a bad player by any means, but I just think that he's someone who he does what he does very well, but that's kind of all he does is what he does very well. So that's if you have some issues, I think it's fair to have a little bit of concerns just because of is he really going to be a 3-down player? Is he going to be a 800 snap a year guy? Probably not. He's probably going to be closer to a 400 snap a year guy. So you're getting value here, but for the Texans who are in a deep rebuild, is this the most valuable guy you could pick up? Maybe, but probably not. I do get the logic though. Again, really high upside with Davis. So it seems like Kiper values upside a little bit more than maybe I do, which again, there's nothing wrong with that. Number 14, the Baltimore Ravens, Tyler Linderbaum. I mean, Linderbaum's biggest criticism is that he's a center. That's legitimately that's the criticism of him, is that his positional value isn't as important as some of these other guys, but he's really good. He's a great center. So if you're getting him 14th overall, you're getting a very good player. So I like Linderbaum. Again, is that the biggest position of need for the Ravens? I don't know, but hey, get a good player. Nothing wrong with that. All right, next chunk here. Yeah, I jump cutted because I went to get a drink of water and then I moved the screen down without thinking. So that's why there's that jump cut with both sides of the screen instead of just one, as I would have typically done. You don't care. No one cares. Anyways, back to the draft. I keep seeing this stuff with the Eagles getting edge here. I just don't know why they're spending so much money on pass rush. Why are we going out and getting another defensive end? I get that that's how the Eagles like to, they like to have a lot of guys to rotate in and out. I don't know. I just so they have, here, I guess they have back-to-back picks going with Jermaine Johnson and then Chris Olave. And again, it's just totally not what I would do. Also, I didn't fully realize there's looks like there's trades in this draft, so I guess that's an interesting factor. We have a wild pick I see in just a couple of moves now, so we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, Jermaine Johnson, I don't even love the player really. His production wasn't spectacular. He's another guy with good measurables, so if you like the measurables, go ahead and do that. But this feels like they could do so much better for a team that, in my opinion, should be trying to compete now. You have a solid quarterback on a rookie deal. Go out and try to be competitive now. Chris Olave, again, I like adding wide receivers. I know they've drafted a lot of first-round wide receivers, but you need more. Typically, when you miss on first-round picks at a certain position, it means you have to go back and spend resources on that same position in the future. So there you go. Chargers, Trevor Penning, huge fan of this pick. Totally makes sense. Need a tackle. Get a good tackle. Done. The Ravens adding Kenny Pickett. Wow. I would really like to understand the logic behind this one. I'm not quite sure I fully get this personally. Why would you go out and get Kenny Pickett? You have Lamar Jackson. Are you not a Lamar Jackson fan? what value does Kenny Pickett add to your team? I don't know. I'd love to hear the logic behind it. This is one. Well, typically I say, hey, respect your opinion, just disagree. I don't get this one. I would love to know the logic behind it. Number 19, Philadelphia Eagles, Devin Lloyd. I love this pick as well. And again, this now has the Eagles with 3 first-round picks. Obviously, the Steelers will be picking there. So maybe a bit outdated of a mock draft on top of this. But back to just, Devin Lloyd here going number 19. I don't hate this move whatsoever. I really like Devin Lloyd a lot as a player. They could use a linebacker. This is good. So 2 out of the 3 Eagles picks I'm a fan of. Number 20, the Steelers getting Malik Willis. It's rare. Unless you already have a quarterback, I'm pretty much never going to fault a team for drafting a quarterback ever. Like, I might have some quibbles over who you should draft and things like that, but Malik Willis is my quarterback 1. So drafting him, if he's your favorite quarterback in the draft, whenever you draft him, I'm going to be a fan of it because the upside is superstar quarterback. That's always worth the risk of a 20th overall pick. And if it hits, then great. You now have 20 more years of being competitive. So it's worth the risk pretty much always to get a star quarterback like that. Number 21, the New England Patriots, Jamison Williams. I would love this pick for them. That would be really exciting, wouldn't it? Big fan of Jamison Williams, and I think he would fit the Patriots offense really well and could be that true one receiver they've been looking for. So I know I know the Patriots don't have the best track record with first-round receivers, but I would really like this one personally. Moving on, so the Packers here at number 22, getting Kenyon Green. I don't know if I would love this one. For one thing, it seems like the Packers can just draft anyone and they'll turn into a good offensive lineman. Not a huge fan of Green to begin with, so that's a little bit of a concern. And I think the Packers just have bigger needs, so that's why I don't love this pick here. Number 23, Arizona Cardinals getting Devontae Wyatt. That's a great move. I mean, getting a good interior defensive tackle, they need that, and he's a really good player. I like him a lot. So, again, kind of maybe some concerns with kind of took him a bit to break out until he was older, but that's my only real concern with him. He was really good last year. All right, moving on to number 24, the Dallas Cowboys. This is an interesting pick going with Tyler Smith here. Certainly on face value, this feels like a bit of a reach. Tyler Smith is not someone who is projected too highly. I think I've seen a lot of places have like 3rd-round grades on him. So him going in the 1st is, that feels like a bit of a reach. But at the same time, they do need a guard to fill in for Connor Williams. I don't hate Smith as a player. He's a good run blocker. So if they do go out and make that move, I have really no issue with it. I would just like it around later. I think they could, go somewhere else. And quite frankly, I think that there's bigger needs on this football team, but I get the logic behind it. Not what I would do. The Bills getting Jahan Dotson, not the wide receiver I would go for necessarily, but I don't hate them going for wide receiver. They're such a complete team that basically every time I do a mock draft, just like on my phone or whatever, when I'm bored, typically, I always had the Bills getting some sort of luxury pick because they're so complete. So again, not a crazy fan of Dotson. I think other people like him more than me, but the position itself, I don't have a huge issue with. The Titans going Zion Johnson here. I like Zion Johnson. I don't love Zion Johnson. So to me, this feels about right. Feels about fair value. And the Titans are another one of those weird teams where it's not to have any glaring needs, I don't think. They can maybe go, I think they probably could still add a wide receiver. I don't think that would be the end of the world. But again, it's never really a bad move to help your offensive line. Of course, they drafted Ray Duns last year, so maybe they don't need to go back to that offensive line well in this spot, but I don't hate it. They could probably use another offensive lineman on the interior, so okay, I think that's fine. Tampa Bay Buccaneers getting Breece Hall here. So full disclosure, I have not yet evaluated running backs, so maybe he's great, and maybe that's why you do it. I just think this would be an insane move to go out and after paying a running back, then go out and drafting a running back. They paid Fournette, getting Breece Hall here. This is a team that has holes on their roster. So go out and get a defensive tackle, and there's good ones. There's good defensive lineman depth. They could use another defensive lineman. Obviously, I'm a Tampa Bay fan, so I'm going to be a little bit particular in this one. Not the move I would have made. Not a fan of drafting running backs. I get the logic behind it. Again, you're trying to be competitive now, which is the one time when you should draft a running back is when you're trying to be competitive immediately. But again, not the move I would have made. And then the Green Bay Packers going with Treylon Burks. Not a huge fan of Burks as a player. Don't really fully get it. But at the same time, Packers do need wide receiver help. So Kenyon Green early on, but then Treylon Burks a little bit later. They need to get a wide receiver. If not, in the first 2 rounds, they need to be getting at least one, probably 2 wide receivers. So first one off the board here makes some sense. Number 29 here. So the Miami Dolphins getting the Kobe Dean, like that pick a lot. Makes a ton of sense. Big fan of this, largely because I like Dean as a player. I'm not wild about Dean as a player, but I love this fit. I feel like this fits really well with what Miami could do. So that's kind of why I like it a little bit more. Although the Dolphins won't be blitzing as much as they did in previous years, it would be a perfect fit if it was like last year. But I like Dean. I think he's a good player. Him here at the late first round. I like this pick a lot. Number 30, the Kansas City Chiefs getting George Karlaftis. I mean, this would be a great pick. I'm a big fan of Karlaftis. I think I'm higher on him than most. So going out and getting someone like this in a position of need. I know you spent money on that defensive line, but if it's not good, you still have to spend more resources on it. Getting Karlaftis, and they have some players, but Karlaftis next to Chris Jones, that's a good 1-2 combo. So like that a lot, especially at this point in the draft. We then have Travis Jones, another guy who I'm a fan of. I like Travis Jones. I think he's good. To me, he is kind of, he's a guy who he doesn't have the upside of a Jordan Davis, so I get why he's getting projected lower, but he probably has at least the same floor, if not even maybe a bit of a higher floor. So for the Bengals, again, you could argue there's a little bit of bigger needs for them. I still think they need a guard here. Maybe they'll sign one in free agency. I don't know, but I don't hate this move going out and getting Travis Jones. And then finally, the Lions at 32, Matt Corral. I would love this pick. I like Matt Corral as a player. And again, going out and getting a quarterback, typically a good move. You don't want to waste another year with Jared Goff as your quarterback. You don't learn anything from that. With Matt Corral, okay, the worst case scenario is you lost a pick that could have been used on a solid starter with 32 because, we're getting down to it. And now with Matt Corral, you get a 5th-year option, so you have that as a potential opportunity if he does work out. And if he doesn't, just draft another guy next year. It's not that difficult. So big fan of this. So yeah, as a whole, some interesting picks here. But again, that's why I wanted to do this, right? To go out and just sort of see what are other people thinking? What is kind of, Mel Kiper, who has more of a traditional mindset on a lot of this stuff compared to, like, for example, me, right? I definitely think a little bit more outside the box. So what are the kind of the traditional things? Didn't really hate any pick other than the only one I just saw no logic behind was the Ravens getting Kenny Pickett. That makes no sense and it won't happen. But a lot of these other picks, I had no real, or I had some issues with it, but I at least understand the logic behind it. So yeah, that's what I thought of this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.